Um, right.
Okay.
Did we get it, Pep? Did
Number
we get
two.
it?
I hope so. It looks like we're on.
Yeah, we're on. We're here. I'm gonna name it Bob, Pep and Bob are black again. Um, I say Pep with two P. I remember one time asking. I'll never forget this day. This is one of those moments in life where I was like, "This is such a Pep thing," because I was like, "Pep, do you spell it P-E-P-P or P-E-P?" And you were like, "I don't call myself Pep," and I was like, "What?" And you were like, "I've never told anyone my name was Pep," and I was like, "Yeah, but we call you Pep." And she's like, "But I say Peppermint," and I was like, "But we say Pep, so how do we spell it?" And you were like, "Well, I guess you have to decide."
That's up. That's between
And
y'all.
and I was like, that is such a peppermint answer. Also, one of my favorite moments from this last thing, there was a moment where we were talking about Bimini's outfit, and you said, I said, I thought you were gonna say you didn't like it. And you said, I would never say something that simple. And then I talked about Lawrence, and then I talked about Lawrence, and you just said, I agree. I, how are you?
I am so good. Today was a real busy day, but I'm happy to be on the phone with you or whatever this thing is with you. Um, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm in a hotel in an undisclosed location because I wanted to because I wanted to just escape, my apartment because I feel like I've been in there
Yeah,
for months and months.
that is the thing when you're in these. So I was up in my place in New York City for pretty much all of quarantine until I moved
Hmm.
here. And I did travel. I traveled to LA twice to visit Ezra for surgery and other stuff. But before that, I was like, when you're in that apartment by yourself, it is honestly, I don't know if it's wilder to be in there with someone else or being there by yourself. Because me and Jacob had a little rough patch. Because Jacob and I we were never used to being around each other that much. I used to travel the world back and forth, and then it got to a point where we were just like, "Girl, we are up in here, like we are really in." I see this motherfucker every second of my life. But we've hit a wonderful groove, and now I'm just every time I see his little cute little face, I get so excited.
Aw. Yeah, well, I'm single.
Listen, if you are single, but actually, I want you all to tell me. Please comment. Tell us how you are surviving your quarantine. Are you alone? Are you with someone else? Are you still in quarantine? Are you one of the gays from Puerto Vallarta? Were you on the boat that went down? If so, please comment and tell. Leave us a little voice note, and we will comment on your comments, honey.
Well, what I was reading, well, okay, I wasn't. When I say reading, I mean I was a guest on Fake the Nation with Nagin, the fabulous host Nagin, and she had read an article. So when I say I read an article, she told me she read an article that basically says that the secret to a good marriage is not like or a good what humans want and what many humans are looking for when they get married and what they need to sustain their marriage is not just love and sex, but it's actually loving companionship, which is different than just being married, right? You can just be married and just be married.
Yeah,
But loving companionship is what people want. I guess that friendship, that kind of trust, all those things. And so that closeness, that like emotional intimacy. And so I have had to find that a lot with my girlfriends, like just
yeah.
companionship of just like being close with friends and just having a friendship. And they said that there's an epidemic, especially in heteronormative marriages with cis folks, that the man. Oh, Mitch, no, don't do that. Wait, what's happening?
I'm here.
I can hear my.
I know. My someone called me. That's the one thing about the Stereo app. If someone calls you in the middle of a Stereo app, it will ruin your day. Just give me a second. I'm gonna get my shit back together.
Okay, okay.
I'm
But a
working
lot
on
of
it.
men are not. They're lonely in their marriages because they don't have friends outside of their marriage. So I think that happens a lot in heteronormative relationships where they end up, the men. the men and maybe even also the women just end up being so much in each other's face that they don't nurture their friendships outside of the relationship. And then they just end up being 60, 70, 80 years old with no friends.
Well, I thought there seems to be a thing in heteronormative relationships where there seems to be this notion where it's like the lady has her friends and the guy has his friends, and they don't have
But
any.
they don't mix.
They don't have any friends in common. And I think one of the greatest things about me and Jacob and me and Ezra, mostly me and Jacob, because Jacob and I have been together for longer than me and Ezra, is that we have a lot of friends in common. We have a lot of friends. We do have our own friends too, but we do have a lot of friends in common, which feels really nice. We should take some of these questions. They're starting to.
Let's take some.
I just wanted to say that, Pep, you looked so fucking beautiful in the first impressions. Of course, Bob, you do too. But I was just like, when you popped up, I was like, oh my god. And I'm also a Patreon Bob. My name's Sam DeJulio. I love you.
Oh, thank you.
Well, that's sweet. Join my Patreon, honey.
But also,
if you really think I'm beautiful.
It's really nice to compliment Peppermint, but also, what about my wig in this week's episode?
Honey, not that cotton picking wig. Wait, not that one. Not that one. Well, your wig was orange and red.
Yeah,
pigtails.
Yeah, the glow up. She had a glow up, and everyone's not acknowledging that. I hope there's some comments coming in talking about the glow up. My wig, it is the most versatile wig on the planet. First of all,
that is not a way to want to describe a wig.
There have been pigtails. There are dreadlocks. There are bangs. There's like 7 different colors in it. This wig is the most versatile wig in the world. And honestly,
that wig is,
y'all are jealous.
Okay, using this sentence. What did you think of my wig? It looked versatile. That's not a nice. Nobody in fashion is like that's not a compliment.
And I would say, word. By the way, if you're just joining us, my name is Bob the Drag Queen. I'm with my great friend Peppermint. Also, you should follow both of us right here on the Stereo app. I'm looking at the question. Wow. We have Mitch. You all know, if you ever see
there's a lot.
If you ever see me or Pep do any sort of video, you hear us talk about Mitch a lot. Mitch is telling us that you all are really sending in
lighting up the comment board.
We can't get to all of them, but we can get to some of them.
Listen, please, everyone on this on the call, follow my Stereo profile, pretty please, so I can so you get notified when I do new shows.
Yeah, and honestly, I gotta say this. I know that people are going to Clubhouse. I have not been to Clubhouse yet. I think it's invite only. But let me right now. I really love this app. And it's not just because I did have a deal with them. But honestly, this is a really
the truth comes out.
Well, I'm being transparent. I told them up front I had a deal because they advertise on Sibling Rivalry. But also, this genuinely is a great app also because it genuinely pays its content creators. Better than any app that I've been on so far. Can you agree to that, Pep?
I can agree to that. Although I'm still trying to get that first coin. I don't think it came to me.
Which coin? It should be if you know in the bottom left corner where it says the steps 1, 3, 2, 1. If you click on that and then look in the top left corner, there's your little bank up there.
Oh yeah, I didn't get that.
I know. I haven't cashed mine out yet. I'm just kind of collected.
No, mine. The one that you said it only went to yours. It didn't go to mine.
Oh what? Really?
Yeah.
Well, Stereo, help us out with that.
One's going to go to yours.
We're going to get to the bottom of this.
We'll talk about that later.
Hey, Bob. Hey, Peppermint. Love the podcast. Hi. Love the Stereo app. Had a quick question. What's a nickname you've been called that you hated? Bye.
Faggot.
Sir.
When I was really young, so here's the thing. I'm really dark skinned. Anyone who doesn't know us, I'm gonna give you a little bit of background about me. My name is Bob the Drag Queen. I'm a non-binary drag performer based out of New York City. For all intents and purposes, for looking at me, I look like a very black man out of drag. And I
say it.
My physical appearance, what people see when they see me. So when I was really young, I'm very, very dark skinned. So when I was really young, I got teased for being black, but only from other black kids. White kids never teased me for how black I was. We were all just black kids to them. But I also didn't grow up around white kids. I grew up around black people. But anyway, the black kids used to call me burnt popcorn. This girl named Rachel in third grade started a nickname
Oh,
that was burnt. It was burnt popcorn, and I mean, it's not even creative. But I remember in third grade, her name was Rachel, and she told everyone my name was burnt popcorn, and they were all like, "Yeah, we agree. That's his name, burnt popcorn. Get her, get her." I
what is wrong with these people?
To this day, when someone burns popcorn or I meet someone named Rachel, I'm triggered.
Well, don't tell people that because then people are going to say it to be mean.
Did you ever have? I guess you're not gonna tell us your nickname. You don't want people to say.
I didn't say I was going to answer that question. I don't think that people, yes, but the nickname that people, okay, it's not so much that I don't like a nickname that I have, because when you have a nickname, I feel like it means you've accepted that that's what the name is. What people, or something that people always call you that directly refers to you. People always, there's lots of people who I can tell who doesn't know me very well when they would come up and they would have this thinking look on their face and they're trying to think of my name and I guess they can't think of Peppermint and they're like, "Hey, Cinnamon." And then
Cinnamon?
that's Cinnamon. Yeah. And then, so I don't like that when you don't get my name right, but I think that goes without saying.
Also, at that point, just ask. Just ask. I'd be
Ask. Don't be searching, y'all. Yeah.
One time, this lady came up to me at one of the meet and greets, and she was like, "What's your name?" And I said, because she was a mom, and her daughter was there, so she didn't know who we were, but she was at the meet and greet, and she said, "What's your name?" And I said, "My name's Bob." And she said, "No, what's your drag name?" I said, that's the drag name."
And what was the look on her face?
She was like, "Oh, well, it's creative. It's creative. It is creative." And I was like, "Is it very?" Let's take another comment. Here we go.
Let's take
I
one.
am a single lady, and I have broken 2 vibrators during this quarantine.
You better.
Oh, wow. That is what I'm talking about.
You bet. I mean, how do you break them? What are you? How is your nether regions? How's your loving oven? If you break, maybe they run out. Maybe she means they run out.
Or the juices were flowing so much and it wasn't a waterproof.
It is short circuited.
Let me shut up. I don't know. Or maybe you threw it against the wall when you were done. I don't know. How do you break a vibrator? But yes.
I'm gonna do
How did a broken vibrator remind you of something? I'm like, you threw your vibrator against the wall and it short circuited your vagina, and then you're like, "Oh, that reminds me."
I don't know how to remind me, but listen, the Pistons fire how they want to fire. I've been thinking to myself, I'm going to do a stereo show at some point about the movie Music by Sia. There's a lot of controversy about it, and I went ahead.
There's a movie called Music.
Okay, so here's the controversy. Sia did a movie called Music. It is a story with one of the main characters is the character is autistic, but the person who played the character is neurotypical. Maddie Ziegler played the character, and a lot of people say it's a very offensive depiction of autism. And why couldn't they find someone at least on the spectrum to play the role? And Sia's response to it was really, she doubled down. At one point, people were.
What did she say?
At one point, some people who have autism were commenting on Twitter, being like, "Sia, just so you know, me and several people auditioned for this role," and Sia just said, "Well, maybe you're just not a good enough actor."
Oh God! I mean, ouch.
What are you looking at, Pat? Pat,
I'm ordering food. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Oh,
I have to order this food.
Pat is not here. Pat,
I'm here. Shut up.
She is not even paying attention to me.
I listened to every word you said, and it really is. I mean, so what's the question? Are people responding, and is there a backlash against Sia because of those comments?
Yeah, there's definitely a backlash. She went into full meltdown mode. She did not handle it well. She has now deleted her Twitter. It's gotten that bad. And I watched the movie, and outside of the offensive aspects of it, I can say it's not a good movie. Even
Okay,
outside
but
of the
wait.
things that are problematic, the film itself is just not good.
Okay, so what do you mean? What's offensive about it in the thing?
Okay, so Maddie
Aside from the fact that she didn't cast, the people that did, the only saving grace to some movies is that the people who were cast were actually were good and gave great performances.
I
And
want
so,
to say
did
a
that
couple
happen?
things about it. Sia, here's some things I want to say. I think Sia took a lot of steps in a direction that may have prevented this, but somehow it misfired. She said she sent it off to the autism board of so and so, and they gave it a 100% score. There were 13 people in the cast who have autism, so there are 13 people on the spectrum in the film. But just the main character who has autism was played by Maddie Ziegler, and it is an extreme it's like nonverbal autism, like
Is,
extreme
is,
autism.
is there dialogue in the movie?
Yeah, there's but it's very little. It's like she would say
Hmm.
things like brush your hair or make eggs or stuff
Is
like
it a
that.
short or? I mean, I
It
know
is
people
a
and people.
feature film. It is a
Okay,
feature film, a
I'm not
full.
going to ask you
And
more
also,
questions
Mitch,
about it because
Mitch, you can also clear out the queue and re-up other things if you want to talk about music, Mitch, if you can hear me. So you can also clear the queue out and re-up questions if you want to talk about music as well. What you about to say,
I
Beth?
have a question about that. Is Mitch listening to us on the podcast or in the Riverside?
In Riverside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then my next question is I won't ask any more questions about this movie because your followers do not like it when I ask questions, apparently.
Well, no, it's not that like when I ask questions. They were gagging last time because we talked about the shirt and you wouldn't look at the shirt until until I think
It's
50
not that I
minutes
didn't
into
want
the
to see
video.
the shirt. It's not that I didn't want to see the shirt. It's that I wanted to continue the conversation. I didn't want to stop and go and try to look something up and be all searching.
But you'll order food on
But
Grubhub.
you because I know what I'm gonna get. Because I know what I'm gonna get, and I know it's gonna be worth it.
I'm
Okay, I
well,
have something to.
they were mad. They were mad at me. They were so mad. They kept being like, "Bob, you're interrupting Pep," and I was like, "What I'm trying to do is get these calls in." Also, I
Bob
love
got a vicious.
and I've told Pep is not the most. She doesn't use the fewest words.
I'm sorry. Well, that may be true. That means okay. So people who use only if somebody answers a one-word answer, a lot of times it's not enough information. If it's one-word answer, and so I guess the opposite of that is someone who uses too many words, obviously. And so people have told me that they said that I'm extremely, and they always lean in on the word extreme. They say that I'm extremely articulate. So I guess that's what that means. But yeah.
Well,
I guess I'm not
also,
concise.
no, I love it. I mean, I love it. I mean, also the folks in there were like, let her talk. You are bullying this trans woman. And I was like, y'all, this is my friend. We have a relationship.
We're friends. We have such a relationship. Nobody knows our relationship. But I do appreciate that. What I do appreciate is them is the notion of wanting to uplift trans people, which you do all the time anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean, the fact that I'm glad that's the kind of stuff because 10 years ago, that's not what they would have been saying in them comments.
Yeah, true. Well, also the amount of misgendering of I didn't want to go on a rant about all.
They were misgendering you.
They were like, not this cisgendered man, and I was like, oh, not when I have non-binary in every one of my profiles on anywhere.
And in the comments directly below that, they're like, this man. Oh, please, y'all, let's not do that. There's no this man. There's no men.
But no man in the world. But I do. I mean, I do acknowledge that to people because I do acknowledge that being non-binary is really new to a lot of folks who aren't in the queer space, and they probably just see someone who looks like a man and calls them a man, which is incredibly problematic. And I guess I'm just used to it, and so I'm just used to people assuming that I'm a man. based on my, and I dress different. Like right now, if you're watching this video right now, I'm wearing a hoodie. If you watch the video of me and Pep when for Why You Should Say Black Lives Matter, I was wearing a turtleneck dress. If you watch the video of me and Pep, one of our other ones, I was wearing my little Coach dress that everyone said was plastic, and I was like, bitch, this is silk and it's Coach. How dare you? They're like, not Bob and his plastic dress. I said, bitch, who's in a plastic dress, bitch? This is silk and it's Coach.
I was probably wearing a plastic dress. Oh, Lord. Now we got to see the damn dress.
Well, I know you ain't.
I don't like to see new things. Don't show me no shirt and don't show me no dress.
All right, we don't have any questions lined up. Mitch took all of our questions away. Again, if you have any, so in music, there were, but also then it got to a point where Sia was doing this weird thing where she was really like, she started counting. We started counting when she was like, well, I'll have you all know there were 13, she's like, I'll have you all know there were 13 autistic people with autism. There were 3 trans people. There were this many black people. And I was like, you counting though? Like when you start counting, that's sus. You know what I mean?
People call in and tell us what do you want us to tell us?
Or if you see music, if you saw music and you have any opinions about it, then please call in right now and let us know. But then it got really weird when Sia started counting the trans people, the people of color, the people who are neuroatypical. I was like, Sia, not counting them all.
I don't want to see that movie. I'm sorry. You're not really making a good
I'm not here to advocate for the movie. I can say out loud, it was not a good movie. I mean,
can I tell you what I did watch?
Yeah.
Can I tell you what I did watch? I binged, and I didn't expect to do this because I was like, let me just see what I can watch last night. And then I put it on HBO Max, which has all the programming. And you promoted this earlier, at least you talked about it. I think Shangela did, one of y'all did. Not that I get y'all confused. And it's a sin.
Yeah. It's on my Instagram. I'm promoting it right now.
Yeah, you did. It's a sin on HBO. I talked about this earlier with Raif on here on stereo. It's well done. It's really well done. But it's really well done. Period. I can't take anything away. It was a hit in Britain. And it's what was really interesting is to be able to see the experience of people of the HIV epidemic and AIDS epidemic in Britain as opposed to the United States, because that's usually what we see is like New York and San Francisco.
Did you just say Raif?
I said, well, yeah, because that's how his name is actually pronounced.
Oh, y'all, Raif is someone that I have been working with since June. We were working. Raif is this really amazing bodybuilder and activist and AIDS activist, HIV AIDS activist, based out of LA from Morocco, I believe. And I've been calling him Rafe for almost 8 months, and no one ever said anything. Pep, you have been hearing me call this man Rafe for 8 months. And this is why he be looking sad on our
Listen, Linda. Listen, Linda. For everybody who knows, he's my assistant, and I love him dearly. That's true. However, he introduced himself to me as Raif. And I know I've known that's how I spell. But he basically, I've seen him because when we were traveling together, when we were able to travel, when he knew that would be complicated for people, he would just say, "Call me Rafe," and so that's what people did. But I feel like it's a little bit of a. This is just my thing. You can call me whatever you want, but I said, you know what? It's worth the effort to get it right.
I would call if I knew. I never knew.
I'm sorry.
One day you're gonna be like, you're gonna introduce something like, my name is Peppermint. I'm like, what Peppermint? Let's take a comment. My world shook.
Hey, my name is Rothwin Reyes, and I am a cousin. And with regards to Sia's movie music, apparently there's also the fact that she became involved with this organization called Autism Speaks that basically thinks of autism as like some horrible disease that destroys everything. And so it's like really problematic that, you know, she made this movie saying that she's advocating for autistic people, and then she's not casting the autistic girl. Apparently, and also having issues with other stuff. So ultimately, it's just kind of weird.
Yeah. Other
Well,
stuff.
also, thank you so much. Thank you for being a cousin.
Autism. Sibling rivalry. Okay. I was like, a cousin. Autism Speaks is the only organization that I can like readily think of that is related in any way to autism, and so
Apparently, it's not
troublesome
good for the movement.
Yeah, apparently. I'd like to take this moment to advertise that I have on my show Pep Talks, which comes on every Tuesday. I'm really excited to have my upcoming guest, John Cameron Mitchell. Anyone who's ever seen the show Hedwig and the Angry Inch, either on Broadway or the movie, knows who that is. And we are watching a really excellent movie called Watt Stacks, which is basically about the Black Woodstock, for lack of better words, that took place in 1972, I think, a couple years after the infamous Woodstock concert. And so John Cameron Mitchell and I are talking about Watt Stacks. It's a music festival movie. And check it out. It's on my Twitch every single Tuesday, or if you join my Patreon, you can get extra stuff.
Also, my partner Ezra's here, by the way. I mean, you all can't see, but Ezra had a really wonderful concert last night, which is available on Press First Productions. If you want to see some amazing queer, trans joy, indie music, singer-songwriter vibes, please pop over to Press First Productions. All right, I switched the category to Broadway because you started talking about Broadway, Pep. And I want to take a moment to highlight you as a true Broadway pioneer, as the first, and I got this credential right now, the first openly trans person to originate a major role in a Broadway musical. And that's just like right here in Black History Month, it's time to celebrate some fucking Black history. I mean, I have dreams of getting on Broadway myself one day, and I almost came so close because I did a production of Angels in America that could have gone to Broadway, but then the National Theatre in London came to Broadway first. They also had a really famous cast. They had Andrew Garfield and Timon, not Timon, what's his name? Anthony. Come on, he played Timon in Lion King.
Oh,
Nathan Lane. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that production. I didn't get to see yours, obviously, because I was in New York and we were performing at the same time. Although you got to come and see me when I was in rehearsals. But by the time we were in rehearsals, and you saw Head Over Heels in San Francisco first, right?
Yeah, I saw it in San Francisco and on Broadway.
Yeah. And so I didn't get to see your production, but we just talked about Angels in America, Raif and I, on our stereo that we did earlier. And so, yeah, thank you for that. It was a great time. But Broadway, we are trying to get, just on the heels of 2020, we are going to really address Broadway and its racism and its lack of queer representation before they are able to get back on those stages. So,
I mean, you know more, but you're more familiar with that than I am. By the way, if you had a chance to see me or Peppermint in Head Over Heels or Angels in America, then please leave a comment and tell us what you thought about our performances. Honestly, that'd actually be really fun to hear. So if you saw Pep on Broadway or me at the Brick Repertory Theater, please, Mitch is looking at us like, girl, you are really making me work over here. Then please leave us a comment about that. So I've actually heard a lot about this. Once Broadway got shut down, a lot of folks were coming forward talking about the issues regarding race, obviously because there was the Black Lives Matter resurgence. And I would say resurgence because Black Lives Matter did not start this summer. This is years before this. I remember years ago, my Twitter name was Black Lives Matter. And then, anyway, long story short, a lot of people who just saw it for the first time in 2020 were like, oh, Black Lives Matter. Like, bitch, we've been told y'all. We've been told.
we've been told y'all.
But what are some of the things going on in not the mukbang? What are some of the things going on in the Broadway community in regards to racism. 'Cause I'm not a part of that community.
Racism is going on.
All right, let's take the question.
Okay, Bob, you were so good in Angels. I was waiting to say something, but decided as soon as you just told me to. I thought it was incredible. It's one of my favorite shows, and you were so good in it. And Peppermint, I'm really sad I didn't get to see you on Broadway, but hopefully you'll be back soon.
I mean, it's a coastal thing. If you live in California, you probably didn't go to Broadway. And if you live in New York, you probably did not see me, obviously. I mean, and Pep was in a show a lot longer than I was. In a bigger theater and a lot longer than I was. I did a 3-month run, and Pep was on Broadway for a year, I believe.
Yeah, from beginning to end, it was a full year.
Yeah, which is just wild to me. And you wouldn't think there'd be a big problem with racism in the Broadway community because there's actually you would, but because it's like it's like a culture of liberal people. So you would think that.
Yeah, there's so much tradition. It really is. There's so much tradition on Broadway. And when I say tradition, I mean tradition on Broadway that when I first got into the show, there's a tradition where they take, and it's not just Broadway, it's all union productions, I believe. And so this might have happened in yours as well, but I don't really know. It's basically there's a garment, and every single time there's people who are new to Broadway, then and a new show opens, then the garment gets basically passed from show to show to show. So there's a piece of the something from the show gets attached to the. It's like Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. It's like this. Okay. It's a robe, and so they call it the Legacy robe now, but only a year ago were they calling it the Gypsy robe, and it's basically somebody gets to wear the Gypsy robe, and there's like a little ceremony. It's quite touching, except for the fact that they're talking about gypsies, and it's kind of like, oh, this doesn't feel quite right. And so they obviously changed it, but there's so much tradition, and it's really interesting. I think the same way that not in the same way as Broadway, but the music industry is or was headed up by so many gay white men. But the whole thing with that is a lot of times, especially historically, the gay white men in power knew the audience and understood the product, that they didn't want to challenge it, and they ended up being the gatekeepers for misogyny and racism, and so these gay guys would be in charge and be like, you ladies need to lose weight and have this little skinny body. And then they would be like, no blacks, that's kind of, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm saying I wasn't in any offices of any music people, but you get what I'm saying. And so, it's unfortunate.
And just so you guys know, I mean, I was in my 20s when I found out that what the phrase gypsy means. And for those of you who don't know, Romani gypsies and Irish travelers are legally recognized as an ethnic group, and they're protected from discrimination by the Race Relations Act. It is not a race, but it is an ethnicity. Being a gypsy is an ethnicity. So when you hear a phrase like someone being gypped or stuff like that, those are phrases that are rooted in what's we're looking for, those are phrases rooted in prejudice, specifically often within the traveling show community, the Broadway community. It's really big in the performance community because a lot of gypsies would make their living traveling and doing traveling shows. Let's take some more of these comments.
Hey, Bob and Pep, I'm such a huge fan from Miami, Florida. Please come. I have a question for you regarding Broadway. Who would you cast, using the real girls and drag queens and people in the queer community, who would you cast as, like say there's a Broadway production of The Wiz? Who you casting? Love you guys.
All right,
myself. What the hell?
As everybody?
Yeah, as everyone. All of them. I'm doing a one-woman production of The Wiz, starring Peppermint. Do you think that'd be the longest show ever?
Well, especially if you got to say the lines however you want it, you'd be like, well, basically, I feel like it's like going home. What I mean when I say going home, because the home is where your heart is, but also it is important in the Black community that we own land. We must own homes, and we need to talk about the structural racism preventing us from owning homes. And they're
It's
like,
so
bitch,
funny that you
go
mentioned.
hills.
I'm actually singing "Home" with Lilius White next week
Oh, wow.
for an event, and I'm so excited about it. Yeah, and so okay. So God, that's a really interesting thing because
Before you move on, I want to talk about that. I'm not. This is no shade to you. I think you're a wonderful performer. I would be so nervous to sing next to Lilius White because her voice is y'all. If you don't, honestly, if you want to get a touch of how great Lilius White's voice is, go to the Hair Actors Fund, like hair, but the cast is the Actors Fund. She sings Aquarius, and it is transformative. It is transformative. She is the voice in she's the main voice in Hercules. Bless my soul, Herc was on a roll. That's Lilius White. If y'all don't know who Lilius White is, Broadway legend, Brooklyn legend, New York City icon. She was just so good. Anyway, sorry, you ready to make your cast?
I don't know.
I can go first if you want to get your mind
You
together.
go first. You go first.
Okay, for me.
And wait, is this the Wiz? This is the Wiz, right? Not Wizard of Oz.
They said the Wiz.
Okay.
All right, so for me, Peppermint is Adam Pearl, the feel-good girl, the one who goes, "Sweet thing, let me tell you about the world."
Who's basically like the other, because there's more witches. All the witches are in the Wiz, y'all. Just so you know, it's not just the North and South. It's
Well,
North,
the Wiz
South.
is actually
It's not just with East and West. It's North, South, East, and West. Go ahead.
The Wiz is actually the musical The Wiz, not the movie, but the musical The Wiz from Broadway is actually much closer to the book than The Wizard of Oz, the movie is. Anyway, I would cast Latrice Royale as the Lion. I would cast Evie Oddly as the Scarecrow. I would cast as the Tin Man. I'm gonna go with Monet Exchange. I would cast Olivia Lux as Dorothy because she has that cute, adorable, like beautiful.
Adorable.
I would cast myself as the as Eveline, hands down, and I would cast Shea Coulee as Glinda the Good Witch.
I would cast Naomi Smalls as the Tornado and Yellow Brick Road, and I know that sounds shady, but they're actually in the Wiz production. The Tornado and the Yellow Brick Road actually are dancers.
You think Sarah's a dancer?
No, I don't think she's a dancer, but I would cast her as
she high yellow. She high yellow. She gonna be the yellow.
Yellow brick road. I guess I should say they are performers. Good grief, they are performers, and so Naomi could be come out and strut as the Yellow Brick Road in a fierce way, and also strut as the Tornado. I would actually cast Kennedy Davenport as Eveline because because I heard her sing the hell out of it, and she sang the hell out of it. I would cast you as either. I probably would cast you as either the Tin person or the Wiz.
Oh, I didn't cast. Okay, mercy. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would cast. I would cast myself as.
Who you gonna be?
I think I would really just want to be Lena Horne and cast myself as Glinda. Just give a good song at the end. Who would I cast as, I'm actually thinking about a vocal ability here, but maybe I shouldn't. I would cast, yeah, I can't do that.
I'm loving you being I gotta really think about it.
I know. I mean, definitely Latrice. I would cast Latrice. I would probably actually cast Latrice as the Scarecrow. and yeah, because she's good as the lion, but I don't know. I wouldn't mix it up a little bit. Who else? How many? I mean, okay.
I think you did. Don't stress stuff out, Bill. We got more questions.
I'm stressed. Keep it going. Keep it going. But I want to cast Heidi as someone, but I don't know who.
She's the scarecrow. She's a great scarecrow.
Okay, she's a great scarecrow.
Flipping stuff. All right, let's take this other question for Pep Explode over the win.
No, Evie Oddly is the scarecrow. Did you cast Evie Oddly as the scarecrow?
I had the honor of winning the lottery for Head Over Heels and sitting front row center and seeing Peppermint perform. And it was honestly like legendary. It was amazing. And I think my favorite thing about the whole production and show itself was that the audience itself, like a lot of times when you go see Broadway shows, like the audience is so stiff. It's like older white people that are just so like, seem so angry. And this audience was so like eruptive with like applause and like just overall seemed very accepting. It seemed like a very happy group of people. So
yeah, I'd say that of the shows that I've seen, Head Over Heels is definitely the queerest script that I've ever read. It was like the queerest show I've ever seen on Broadway. Even more than, believe it or not, than The Prom or, you know, other shows like that. Like it was almost too much how like progressive they were with like body positivity, and it's never too much, but it was almost too much. Body positivity and like, you know, gender and sexuality. And there was a really beautiful, not that anybody will know this, but there's a beautiful monologue. I just liked I knew I really fell in love with it, not from my character, but by the monologue that one of the other characters has, Cleophila, which is I can't remember the Andrew's other character. There's a guy it's basically about a guy who's a pauper or a shepherd who goes and falls in love with a princess, but he's not able to. He can never date her because he's not a prince, and so he dresses like a woman to infiltrate the family and like kind of make nice with everybody. But the problem is everyone falls in love with him as this woman. And so, except for the princess who likes him as a man, obviously. And so by the end of it, they were, you know, when everybody found out and like the secret was spilled, and the wig was literally snatched off. The character has this really beautiful monologue that says, you know, just all about basically kind of embracing a sort of gender fluid identity, where, you know, that they know that they've got feminine and masculine inside. And it was just really beautiful. And I knew that was the show for me. And you're right, the audience, we had the people who definitely resonated with all of these stories of inclusivity were in that audience, except for one time we had someone with a Make America Great hat on again. And I won't say that people who wear those hats are not inclusive.
Drag
or not,
them,
you know,
drag them.
But we did have somebody who was a little disgruntled, and I'll just say I wasn't surprised that he was wearing a Make America Great Again hat. And they were not there after intermission, which means they left halfway through.
Maybe he just took the hat off. Maybe he got sweaty.
No. He walked out. They stormed out, and they were like adjusting their seat and moving around and being all like, oh. You know, during the show. They were like,
I don't have the beat. that person didn't. I would say this. I didn't know what I was getting into going in. I thought I was going to be watching a bio play about the Go-Go's. So when I sat down and saw I was like, what? So it took me a second to adjust, but it really was bad. But I was like, I thought we'd be learning about the Go-Go's today. And it's actually a jukebox musical with the Go-Go's music, but it does not, someone got a tripod delivered. Someone just got a tripod delivered to their door, y'all. Let's take another question while Pep talks about her tripod.
Thanks. Hi, Pep. Love you guys. Sorry, I'm listening in the shower, so if there's background noise, that's what that is. But
yeah.
Speaking of Broadway, I've always wanted to like switch up some Broadway roles. Like, I've always wanted to play Eponine, but as a gay boy, because it kind of makes more sense to me when you read into the story. or like playing Elphaba as a trans woman instead of just green would also like make sense. So I want to hear your opinions on like how those roles would be taken by audiences, and if you have any other ideas of roles that you could change up like that to include more representation of different kinds of people. Thanks.
I mean,
Well, you know,
go ahead.
I think the best way at this point, the easiest way to switch up the roles that are already established and things that have been on for years and years, like Wicked, which actually got their out of town start in the same theater as Head Over Heels, the Curran Theater in San Francisco. I think the easiest way to switch it up is the casting. That's, I think, the way that is the most symbolic, because it allows anybody the opportunity to play those roles, especially things that are established. I don't think people would react that well if, when Broadway comes back this year or next year, that that like all of a sudden the script was rewritten to be a trans woman. I think that would be I would love to see it, but I would much rather see a trans woman play the role first. Because a lot of times what ends up having to happen, I don't want to see some cis person trying to play a trans role on Broadway. I don't think that's what we need right now. I would rather see a trans person play the same role as everybody else and nail it. You know what I mean? And so that's what I would rather see. And but in terms of stories, shows or stories or characters that I think really speak to queer identities, really, it sounds like what you were saying. Honestly, a lot of times the misunderstood character, the character that is, you know, kind of unfortunately kind of down and out in many situations, ends up being the character that I think a lot of queer people resonate with, probably because of our own experiences. And so for that reason, I love thinking of Audrey in Little Shop of Horrors as a trans woman.
You mean? Oh, well, here's something people don't. It's something I was talking to Ezra about this morning, because we saw this person who appeared to be a man. That was his whole gag, that he was singing "The Wizard and I" in the original key, and I was like, people like this are going to be the key to like non-binary casting. There are lots of times where these roles don't say. For example, a trans person could play Elphaba, a trans woman could play Elphaba, or a non-binary person could play Elphaba, because it never says whether it never says an Elphaba being a cisgendered woman giving birth through her vagina. Like, it doesn't say that. There's one role where the person playing Elphaba's mother is cis because they're giving birth to Elphaba on stage, but outside of that, it never says that she's cis. It never says whether or not she's trans. It's not in there at all. And there have been Alexandra Billings played Madame Morrible on Broadway in Wicked, and I do have access, so I could ask her at some point, because she's good friends with my partner. But I don't know that she was playing it cis. She might have just been playing it as, you know, a trans woman who happens to be the dean of students or whatever Madame Morrible's role is, some professor at this place. So I'm intrigued by the knowledge, like the notion of that character being in there and Alexandra Billings playing the character and being like, it, unless the role says, hey, this is a cis person or this is a trans person, and even then, I think you can still have parts where people play different roles, but like a lot of these roles don't exclusively. Sandy in Grease, or all these, like Danny Zuko in Grease, do they exclusively say that Danny Zuko is not a trans man? Then why can't a trans man play Danny Zuko?
That's right. That's one of the things that the difference between film and television breakdowns versus auditioning for a role on Broadway is you would get the sides, and there might be a brief description, but they almost never say that. But in film and television, the sides are pieces of the script that you get when you're going to audition, folks. A lot of times in those breakdowns, historically, they would actually say, they wouldn't say cisgender, but they would say, you know, they would be more descriptive with the person, with the character, not based on what's in the script, based on what they're trying to cast, right? Which is very different than what it says in the script. And so But now that I'm seeing that, I know you've gone on a lot of auditions lately, that I'm seeing that change where they're saying this role is open to anyone who wants to play it, regardless of race or gender, which I think is pretty cool. And I like seeing that.
I agree, and it's really interesting too. The woman whose name I cannot remember right now, but I remember that her last name is Caldwell. Her name is Sandra Caldwell. Sandra Caldwell, who was in all these Disney shows, is a trans woman, and she was in these shows. And I don't know. I know that she said that she was living stealth when she was in these Disney shows. I think she was like Cheetah Girls, or I think Sandra Caldwell might have been in either Cheetah Girls or That's So Raven or something like that. But I mean. That goes to show you that there are lots of trans people working in these fields already, first of all. And because she was able to go stealth, no one, realized that she was in a lot of the movies. She's been in, look her up, Sandra Caldwell. She's been in a ton of movies. And if the role says woman, if they're looking for a woman, and it doesn't necessarily say cis woman or anything like that. Anyway, I just think that's really an interesting point that someone brings up, and I think that people like, oh my God, Alex Newell playing Asaka, which is traditionally played by women on Broadway, and as far as I understand, Alex does not identify as a woman, but Alex played that role and did a really good job. So I actually think that maybe we're heading in a direction. I'm not saying we're nailing it, but also when you think about the movie Soul, in the movie Soul, the character, the he's not really a bad guy, but the character who was like trying to find Jamie Foxx and bring him back was played by a woman, but it was portrayed in the film as a man. So maybe we're inching towards something. Like, what do you think so, Pep? Are we like inching toward this revolution?
I hope so. We're certainly moving. And Mitch, would you check the chat on Riverside? I think we are. We're certainly in a situation where things are getting, people are gaining more awareness. And I think we're in a situation where some people, not everyone, are thinking of inclusivity, inclusive and diverse casting. This is the first, and I know it's not. I know it's not that unique. There certainly have been other thinking about diversity is not that brand new, but this year in 2020, I saw more and heard more, and even did some with you, more corporations saying that they were specifically interested in a platform that would uplift diversity and inclusion into their thing more than ever. And so I do think that it is changing. But I also think that in order for us to get to where we're trying to go, which I don't even know where it is, but that utopia, if you will, we're going to have to really get good with not like understanding non-binary identities. I think that is non-binary identities, bisexual and pansexual sexualities, things that are not in the binary, gender fluidity, those things that I think are going to be the key to getting us to where we need to go.
Yeah, I think so. And I also want to, before I take the next question, I was also able to see MJ Rodriguez playing Audrey. Oh my God, I cannot believe I didn't say that. Once you said, how did you mention a trans woman playing Audrey, and I did not mention that I saw MJ Rodriguez playing Audrey?
Yeah, you got to see her in Los Angeles, and I wanted to go and see her so badly, but I was unable to do it. But I will say that, I mean, that is fantastic. She killed. What I was thinking though when I mentioned it, which is different, is the role itself being written as a trans woman. Well, if I were going to rewrite a role,
I guess obviously you can't rewrite plays legally.
You can't rewrite plays once they already have.
Yeah, unless it's in the public domain, or unless the actual writer rewrites. So to answer that question, we cannot rewrite plays. That is literally not legal. But and also, speaking of gender bending, also Amber Riley played the plant in that version as well. I got to see Amber Riley as a plant. Anyway, let's take this. Also, did you notice I changed the name of the topic of the meeting? It's so
it's Broadway debut. Damn. Yeah.
I thought that was a really clever title. All right, let's try this one.
I think so too.
Hi, Bob. Hi, Peppermint. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Stacy. I'm a huge fan of both of you. Speaking of Broadway, Peppermint, I got to see you in Head Over Heels a few years back as Pythio, and you were absolutely fantastic. And Bob, I hope to see you on Broadway as soon as Broadway opens up again. I just wanted to say,
not assume.
one thing that really grinds my gears and makes me angry is when white-filled middle schools, high schools, community theaters, etc., still think that it's okay to put on a production of Hairspray or The Wiz or In the Heights or Dreamgirls, etc., without a single black person in it. Like, why even do those shows then? It's just going to be tasteless and racist and disgusting, and it makes me...
Can I hop in? I have so much to say, Pep. Stacy, you could have spoken
You
any
better go ahead and
language.
say it. Go ahead and say it.
You
And I don't
could
think
have.
we're
You
not
could
going to
have.
agree on this one. Go ahead. We're not
You
going to
could have
agree. Get
spoken
ready.
so many languages, but you only chose to speak facts on this day, Stacy. I will say this one thing. The Wiz does not exclusively say that they're black. The Wiz is just a black cast, but the Wiz does not exclusively they're like other shows. When I see a middle school doing Aida, when I see a middle school doing In the Heights, when I see an all-white high school doing Once on This Island, and the like, there are lines baked into the script. Like in Once on This Island, they despise us for our blackness. I was in a high school production of Once on This Island where all of the gods were white, all of the dancers were black, and then all of the singers were white, and the singers were singing the line, they despise us for our blackness. They had to change the line to they despise us, they deny us. If you're changing lines, Mary, if you're a high school and is doing a production of The Color Purple, I don't want to see a white Sealy come out and sing I'm Here. I'm going to be like that motherfucker in the MAGA hat. I'm getting up and I'm walking out. I'm going to have problems. I'm going to walk around and have some problems. If Aida is singing, if your middle school is doing Aida, you got a bunch of white motherfuckers singing Nubia. The song is called Nubia. This is dumb. There are so many plays for white people to do. Just do one of your white plays. There are so many of them.
You are right.
Not Pep cutting me out. Not after only 1 minute. I be letting you go on.
I'm not cutting off. I agree. I agree with you. I do think that it is of extreme oversight when that happens. I do think that they know at some point in the game, whether it's when they decide to do the show or when they're rehearsing, they know that this is a black show or that this is historically a black performance of a black show. And so I agree with you because there doesn't seem to be anything more kind of...
It's the definition of privilege. It's the definition of privilege.
No. I'm not talking about I'm not talking about the decision or the audacity to decide to do that. I'm talking about sitting in a theater and the lights go up and you came to see The Wiz and seeing somebody else come out on that stage and you're like, and you're waiting for those moments. And it's not there. In Dreamgirls, it's not there.
I mean, The Wiz isn't even as bad as like Aida because there are songs called like Nubia, the gods love Nubia.
Broadway, Aida on Broadway, the Egyptians were played by all white people, right? And, I had a problem with that. Adam Pascal was amazing.
We'll say most of them. I'm sure there are probably some folks who were not white, so we don't want everyone out there thinking that.
Right. Well,
there's some Puerto Rican being like, "Excuse me."
I don't know. There may have been some people of Latinx experience, but they were extremely light skinned and blonde. Many had blonde hair and blue eyes on that stage. Whether they were wigs and they had an afro underneath, I don't know. But what I saw was some Aryan looking stuff going on. And so it did not speak of anything on the continent of Africa natively. I'll say that. So it did feel, and there was obviously a choice to do that because all the people who were Nubians were dark skinned and I believe African American or black or something. and so not white. And so I remember that specifically, and I had a problem with it. I didn't have a problem with it, but I was like, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel accurate. This feels like a Disney telling of Africa where it was
It
like
is a Disney telling
I
of
was the
Africa.
white savior. But wait, I do want to, in those situations, I completely agree. I don't want to see something, I don't want to see In the Heights and have it be like all Anglo, folks doing it. And that doesn't, maybe that speaks to some of my prejudices. Thank you. But I do think that in this day and age, it's really difficult. Like we dealt with this exact same thing. Head over heels, the casting or the script doesn't say that the person is transgender. It does say that the character Pythio is non-binary. The language is not everyday language, so they're basically non-binary. And I'm not a non-binary person, but they wanted to cast a trans woman in the role. Fine. Some people may have a problem with that. I understand it. But the thing that's interesting is now that I was cast in the show and originated the role, the mark or the legacy or the impact on the role is that the first consideration is that it should be cast as a Black trans woman. And that's just because they're trying to stick to the original casting. And so there have been a few calls from people doing the show that are to other cast members and people like trying to get help. They're like, we don't have a Black trans woman in our school. How can we cast this role? And it's really something that they're.
Are you saying that you think the role should be? Are you saying you think the role should only be played by a Black trans woman?
I think it would be great if in a professional theater setting, or in a regional theater, like in a community theater or in high school, that we strive to get as inclusive as possible and non-traditional casting, which at this point will center Black and trans folks, Black folks who are trans in this role, or queer folks or people of color in some of these roles. In a role that was specifically written or at least cast originally as a queer person, a trans person, non-binary person, I do think that they should strive to go out and see if they can find. Now, you run into a situation with sexual identities, like can you ask the students how they identify? I don't really know if they can, what that is, what that entails, but I do think that they should still do the show, even if they couldn't cast a Black trans woman in that high school production, because I think that the subject matter is something that should be presented. I also think that they should do their best to try to find a Black trans woman or a non-binary person in that role first before it goes to anybody else. That's my personal opinion, but I don't think that they shouldn't do the show. And so I don't know if that's the same thing with The Wiz. It's a lot easier to find a Black person than someone who's trans, because you can't necessarily always, people's gender isn't as accessible always. You don't know if someone's trans necessarily. And so that's what I have to say.
Here's the thing. The Wiz does not exclusively say they're Black. That being said, I don't want to see a white production of The Wiz. That's just, I just don't want to see. I'm not interested. Let's take one more, Pep, because I think we're at about an hour right now. Let's take one more, and this is our last comment of the day.
Was I skipping?
Racism makes it. Yeah, I think so. Mitch, if you can confirm that.
Hey Bob, hey Peppermint, I'm a Patreon supporter. My name is Prince. I know we're talking about racism in, I guess, Broadway and television roles, but as a performer in the circus world, I feel like there's still a lot of work to be done. I know that you guys aren't in this world, but it's like, if you ever gone to a Cirque du Soleil show, have you ever seen a Black clown? Have you ever seen a Black aerialist? Like, I feel like there still needs to be a lot of work done for Black people in the circus world, and I don't know how. Yeah.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I have never seen a Black clown that was not at the Universal Circus or specifically hired for a Black event. Now, that being said, anyone who knows me knows that I love clowns. I have a real love for clowns. Something about I just really like clowns. I don't know what it is. I just fucking love clowns, clowning. I love circus arts. And I know lots of people, lots of black performers in the circus arts world, but typically through burlesque in these small little burlesque troupes. But I've never seen one at one of the, I mean, a lot of the big, I think Barnum and Bailey is like shut down. They're not even doing it anymore. I think the company went under, and I think Ringling Brothers might be as well. And you know, and a lot of that is there's a lot of I think that whole idea of circuses and animals is really antiquated and probably should, and they were not resurfacing. And you know, when Cirque du Soleil, who I think hires black people and people of color more so than Ringling and Barnum and Bailey, but also Cirque du Soleil was clearly a little bit more progressive because they were moving toward animal-free circuses, whereas these other ones were still in this realm of like, you know, chains and cages, and Cirque du Soleil is like, we're just gonna have French people in cages and chains. Do you have any experience about that, Beth?
I don't really have that much experience with circus performers, other than the antics that some of these men try to pull. But I do think that I can agree. It's probably if this world of circus is anything like the rest of performing arts and entertainment, then there's not enough diversity. I can certainly believe that. I believe that. But I don't know that I've seen a lot of black. It's really difficult to know because in the circus, so many of the performers are heavily costumed and heavily made up. And so unless it's like the singer who's always like the ingenue, this woman that always comes out and sings in every circus, then I don't know what anybody really looks like, or the ringmaster. It's like those two are the only ones you get to see like their actual skin and their face generally, or the aerialist, I guess, because they're not usually made up. But yeah, I agree. It's really interesting. I would love to know what you do in the circus, but no, I haven't seen it. I think the circus is also racist.
And I mean, the circus is a microcosm of the real world. Everything is a microcosm of thing. And if y'all ever wonder why black folks are always doing black folk stuff, it's because black folks will carve out their own niche in a space. It's why queer folks do their own queer folk stuff. It's why trans folks do their own trans folk stuff. It's because you have to carve out your own niche because it is so hard to get a stronghold in the mainstream. And I don't want to hear anything about how, well, Beyonce is the so-and-so, Barack Obama was the president of so-and-so. Those are the exceptions. They are not the rules. That does not mean that every black person who can sing as well as Beyonce is going to be a chart-topping artist, where a lot of her white contemporaries can do half of what she does and still sell twice as many albums.
I want to talk about this. Now that you talk about that. I'm still trying to sort out my personal feelings about I watched about Beyonce. I'm trying to get my personal about Framing Britney Spears documentary and the Justin Timberlake apology to Janet and Britney. Did we talk about that together?
We spoke about it for a little bit.
Okay. Well, then never mind. We already spoke about it. I have amnesia.
No, but yeah, in private, Pat, we spoke about it on the phone to each other. We didn't speak about it on.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, then I would like to know your thoughts. It is checked, Mitch. It is. I just checked it.
Okay, so I watched. So I
yeah.
Go ahead. Wait, you want to hear my? So I watched Framing Britney Spears. First of all, what do you want? What?
Let me just say something. I watched it. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was really, really good. I was one of those people, and I feel really guilty that I was not in the Chris Crocker camp of like, leave Britney alone. I was heavily criticizing her. I was jumping on the bandwagon. Oh no. I was jumping on the bandwagon, and I feel really bad for that. After having watched the Framing Britney thing, the documentary, I was able to see, kind of where we went wrong and what we did. Oh, Mitch, my camera just died. That's what just happened. And so I feel really bad for what we put Britney through. She was heavily slut shamed. She was heavily, just really put upon, and I just feel terrible for that. And so, you know, to see, and I also didn't know that much about Justin Timberlake. I didn't know, obviously I wasn't in the relationship, and I didn't know how bad it was, but to hear him talk about Britney in such a way that was so sexist and misogynist was also very troubling. And I think people really took his side for many, many years and thought that Britney was like this big cheater and that she really, just was all of a sudden now quote unquote slutty and a bad mom, and let's judge her and her body. And I just didn't realize how much she was going through. And so to see Justin take some accountability did feel appropriate.
So, I watched Frame of Britney Spears. By the way, if you're looking for it, I thought it was its own documentary. It's part of a New York Times series on Hulu. It took me forever to find it. It is part of a different series. That being said, when I watched it, I realized because Britney Spears is older than I am. I think Britney Spears is going to be like 40 this year. I think she's 39. Maybe she's going to be 40. I can Google that real quick. I never realized how young Britney Spears was when all of this was happening. She'll be 40 this year. It never occurred to me how young Britney Spears was when all this happened, because I was so young. I'm 30, I'll be 35 this year. So, I mean, when you're 10, I always say this to someone, when you're in 6th grade, 8th graders seem like full grown adults. When you're in 6th grade, you're like, when you see an 8th grader, and Britney Spears is about 5 years older than me. So when I was in middle school and she was like 17, I thought she was like 35, because that's the age gap is so significant. But watching it back and realizing that she was a girl, she was a child, and they were sexualizing her in a really graphic way, and I did not know how deep this conservatorship went. I did not know how in control of her estate, her money, her bookings, her gigs, her everything, her family is, and how rare it is for someone her age to be in a conservatorship. I didn't know how rare that was for someone as capable as she is. I got a feeling other folks in conservatorships aren't doing sold out shows in Vegas, 5 shows a week. Something tells me that that's not happening for those people. You know?
I mean, she is not only capable, but at this point, pretty much a money machine for her father and for the conservatorship. And it is terrible. But I really wanted to focus on the Janet Jackson aspect of this. I just really so desperately wanted and do want still a good level of justice for Janet Jackson, who was, she was disinvited from the Grammys. She was blacklisted publicly, and she just wasn't able to, I don't think she was able to recover her career in that amount of time. And now she's in a different spot in her life. Maybe her career won't go back the same way it was, but it really bothered me that at this moment, his career was able to thrive and take off, and hers was like essentially almost ended.
I mean, he's a white guy. He's a good-looking white guy. He's young. He's younger than Janet Jackson was at the time, although she was pretty hot. She was very hot at the time, by the way. And he
hot as in sexy.
Hot as in like she was like her career wasn't going down. She was still.
Oh, Janet, no, her career was still going up.
Yeah, she had just did like Nutty Professor. They were still doing. She was she was still big at the time, and I do feel. I mean, so it's not shocking to me that she was able to bounce back faster than him. She also had a lot of things in her career where and maybe as a result of this, she ended up like kind of shying away from the spotlight. She ended up, she also, even when she married that guy, and then she became a very conservative, she converted to be a conservative.
Guy in, Muslim
for a little while. And then I think they got divorced, and now they're like, I think, did they get divorced?
Hi, Roberto. Leave it. Just go to the front desk and leave it at the front desk, please.
You are muted the house down.
Okay, thank you.
And I think you're talking, but no one can hear you, Pep. So I'm just gonna keep.
It did the same thing. But how do you fix it when it?
I know you just tapped the mute
Say
button.
something.
There's
No, you're back.
there's the
You're
middle
back.
the button
Okay.
in the middle. Yeah, I'm here. I was saying. Then she also had the time where she was. I think because of that, she ended up shying away from the public spotlight. And then there was the moment where she converted to
Yeah.
Islam, and she was pretty conservative for a while, and she wasn't like touching anyone, any men or anything, and all that stuff. But you're right. She never did recover from that thing. Like Janet Jackson did not pop off after, and it seems like they both kind of acknowledge slyly that they were kind of both in on this titty. Like it seemed like it was a publicity stunt that went
Right.
wrong.
You're right, and that question remains. The question still remains. Was it planned? Did they really do it? Who was the mastermind? Who just went along with it? And I know that that's a talking point, but at the end of the day, this man ripped off the blouse of a black woman on national television, and the black woman was blamed.
Yeah,
That's what happened.
Well, I do want to say that is what happened. I do need to say that consent is important, and we don't know if there was consent there. If there was consent, I don't want to blame Justin Timberlake for ripping this off. If there was consent, that is, in my opinion, a very dicey area.
I'm not saying that we don't. I think that she knew that he was going to reach. I believe that she probably knew that he was going to reach for her breast. And so I think that there was a level of comfort and trust there. I think what ended up happening was she got blamed for what ended up happening. And we don't know if it was on purpose, if the boobie coming out was supposed to be a trick, what. But at the bottom of the end of the day, she's the one who got blamed. And, and Madonna was doing this kind of stuff. And that is not what stalled Madonna's career. In fact, it would probably helped her career. These kind of antics.
Madonna also really leaned into it. Madonna was like, "This is my pussy, and I'm showing it to you on purpose. This is not an accident. This is my.
I'm making you pay for it in a book.
This is my fucking pussy. You're gonna pay money to look at it, and I'm gonna come back at the Grammys next year, and I'm performing." Let's take one question. I do have to go.
Fine. One question.
One question.
Okay, I have a little bit to say about the Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson thing. I don't really do Britney. I didn't watch a documentary, but I do know that 5 years ago, a reporter asked Justin Timberlake if he was willing to apologize to Janet Jackson, and all he did in response was just say bye. So I honestly feel like his apology right now is not genuine. I don't know. He's just doing it because people are quote unquote making him do it. I don't buy it. It's a bunch of bull to me.
Yeah, and that doesn't sound illegitimate. I do not follow Justin Timberlake's career. Justin Timberlake is not someone that I know anything about past Dirty Pop. So I do not know the full tea on Justin Timberlake. Yeah, and I do want to say this. This is really important, and I want to take a very brief moment to be really, 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 really serious about something before we go. I know that Rush Limbaugh passed away very recently, and in terms of Rush Limbaugh passing away, it's important to remember that Purse First is available to stream on iTunes, Spotify, and you can sign up for my Patreon.
Why is that funny?
I guess you didn't hear anything I just said. All right, that was a really great
everything.
Stuff.
I heard.
What do you mean? Why is
hearing
that funny?
ear.
That was a brilliant set. It's called misdirection, Pep. I was using misdirection as a tactic in my comedy here
to sell the album. Okay.
Yes. If you thought it was funny, hashtag Bob and Pep on Twitter. We'll be checking right now. Pep has started eating, so it's a wrap. It's a wrap, y'all. The food showed up.
I'm about to watch. I'm about to watch The Real World with Raif.
Now, Pep, this is very important. You have to listen to this. When I hit end live, you also have to hit end live, or you will start going live with other people. If you all want a real tickle, go back through Pep's page. There's actually Pep's second conversation was her and a stranger when she didn't know she was recording. So if you all want a real tickle, go back through Pep's shows, and it'll give you a real kiki. So Pep, I'm hitting end live. You have to hit it now. I love you very much.
Love you. Bye.